Here we are once again with the overhead plan of our Right Tail property, showing some of the improvements and some of the existing routes that exist. Up here is the food plot, and then back in the back is where we intend to have the majority of the bedding and the sanctuary. Like I said, once again, there is a ridge system that follows close to the upper portions of the property, wraps around the pond, and then continues all the way around the property like such. The problem with this ridge system is that it prohibits deer travel from the front side of the property to the back side of the property without having to climb a steep ridge system. There was one small trail that followed the ridge across right here to get up, but it wasn't used that often. The majority of the movement happened around the edges of the property to get around. And during harsh winter months, if they wanted to get into this pine stand, that's what they were doing. They were traveling around instead of through. So our goal is to, instead of having them travel around this property and onto the neighbor's property, we want them to travel through here. So we're going to take that bridge system there. We got two routes that we're going to cut through here to try to promote movement back and forth while not leaving the property. Our first route here comes from a major hub back near the bedding area. Goes up over top the ridge and then through a bottom and out into the food plot and into the remaining pines. Our second access ramp goes from the southern portion of the property, bedding area that occurs in here naturally, and there's fields down below. It'll bring them up over here and into the food plot and the pine trees for shelter in the winter months, instead of having to travel around the property like we showed before on the ridges. We're going to begin working on these. We'll show you some videos of what we're doing here. This will be step one of the process this year. Next year we'll probably increase the access routes or maybe embellish them a little bit to promote more movement with an additional food plot trail through this bottom, and maybe plant some additional trees along the edge of this ramp here. So this is the plan. We'll show you here in the following video, the process and the results. Okay, here we are leaving the food plot, headed up to what we call the pine ramp. As you can see, there was a ridge coming from the right to the left and straight ahead. We cut the ridge out to provide an access route for the deer from the bedding area, which is at the back side of the picture. This is a much more gradual route. They didn't like climbing the ridge when we first got the property, and that was causing some problems with the deer flow. So we went ahead and cut this out. It takes us down to the lower logging road, and everything you see out ahead of you is bedding. Had a lot of rubs in the little pine grove off in the distance there when we bought the property. So we cut this in, trying to draw some of that action up into the food plot. And as you can see, it was a lot of the hill that we cut out. This red line here was where the existing ridge used to be, and we cut all this dirt out, moved it down the hill, and now it's a gradual taper of a slope that we planted with a clover and chicory blend, which the deer could not come up the slope to begin with, so that didn't work for us. But now with the work that we did, they travel out of the bedding area and right up the ramp here, and then they can also return here back to the bedding area. We'll probably plant some trees on the edge here next year, but right now it's just going to be a clover trail. Here we are headed up the trail, which will take us up to the food plot, as you can see. There's a lot of bedding up here that the does like to utilize, and once we get the plot planted, it should be a major attraction. Here are some still images of us preparing the ramp, the seed. That's how steep it was to begin with. A lot of trees on it, too steep for a deer to climb. Did a little bit of work with our dozer. It came up with this plot here that has plenty of growth on it, plenty of food, and deer like to use it coming out of the bedding area here. Now we'll fly back to the what we call the pond ramp, which is in the back of the property. Well, not really the back, it's in the middle, but it services the deer that are bedding in the back and allows them to stay on the property through the middle of the property, headed up to the food plot. Everything back here is bedding, and as we spin around here, there's the access ramp that we built, which goes up over the ridge and down into a bottom that leads up to the food plot in the distance. There's the main logging road here, which connects the two ramps that we built, and everything off to the left is bedding. We'll probably end up planting this logging road at some point in time with the same blend that we put on the ramps, just to encourage movement between the two and across the property once again. So here's the pine ramp that I showed you earlier, and leads over to the food plot, which you'll be able to see as we back out of the image here. And there's the plot off in the distance amongst the pine trees there. So thanks for watching.